One of HBO's best fantasy shows faced an incredibly difficult task right from the start, but not only did it manage to succeed, the global smash hit series is also already seeing the cycle it started continue through another franchise release. The fantasy genre is one of the most popular in the world. In recent years, several exciting fantasy series have been released across different streaming services. For instance, Prime Video became the home of Critical Role, with two genre masterpieces, The Legend of Vox Machina and The Mighty Nein, coming to the streamer. On Netflix, shows like The Witcher and Arcane have kept global viewers glued to their screens. HBO Max's TV show catalog similarly holds many impressive fantasy shows, with some of them being his Dark Materials, True Blood, and so on. However, when it comes to HBO's best fantasy shows, the attention will always turn to Game of Thrones. For 8 seasons, the series based on George R.R. Martin's books captivated the world. Sadly, due to a disappointing finale, Game of Thrones is not as talked about with praise as it was at its best. This change in public reception created a complicated task for a certain fantasy series. House of the Dragon was the first Game of Thrones spin-off to be released on HBO. 3 years before the show was released on August 21, 2022, the company canceled the planned spin-off Blood Moon. Despite having shot an expensive pilot and casting stars like Naomi Watts, the prequel did not live up to expectations. House of the Dragon proved Westeros had life left after Game of Thrones' ending. Game of Thrones' ending was so controversial that continuing the fantasy franchise after it was a daunting task, making a victim of the first project that tried to fill that hole. Thankfully, House of the Dragon debuted with a phenomenal first season that showed the world that it was possible to continue in Westeros, with the Targaryen Civil War and the events leading up to it making the show complex, nuanced, and utterly irresistible. It also helped that House of the Dragon was a prequel set around 200 years before Game of Thrones, and in a period in Westeros history where there was a lot to pull from. The show resembles its dark predecessor while delving deeper into one of the franchise's biggest houses and showing the dragons before they went extinct. Ahead of House of the Dragon Season 3's debut, with the show returning on June 21st, HBO has already announced that the hit fantasy series is coming to an end with Season 4. It will be more than enough to finish telling the story of the Targaryens during this bloody period of their dynasty. House of the Dragon will not overstay its welcome, nor should it rush through events, avoiding what made Game of Thrones' ending so divisive. The cycle continues with another Game of Thrones spin-off proving House of the Dragon is not the end. Another positive element of House of the Dragon is that the show does not leave behind as daunting a task as it had in succeeding Game of Thrones. Before Season 3 debuts, HBO has already found the Targaryen show's perfect replacement in the form of the second Game of Thrones spin-off. Having been released in 2026, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms became a global success, with Season 2 on the way. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has a much lighter tone than its predecessors, with Dunk and Egg's chemistry making for a fresh and exciting Game of Thrones release. House of the Dragon may end soon, but it will not be the finale of the franchise, as, like it had done, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms now shows there is life after House of the Dragon, and Westeros looks completely different under the show's brighter light, confirming a golden future for HBO's main fantasy franchise.